You know you're somebody from Tyler when your nickname is the Rose, right?
Yeah.
The Tyler Rose.
Yeah, oh yeah. And
The
they got a
city's
street named after.
Right, Earl Campbell Parkway, right?
Yeah. And an award named after.
I'm in negotiations with the city about Chad Parker
You want
Boulevard.
Don't Get Hurt Twice Boulevard. Is that what you?
I mean, I'm trying to figure out which one that we're gonna have.
I think I'd go with DGH too. I don't know. What do you think? if there's a Chad Parker Street? What do you want? Chad Parker or DGH too?
I don't think I'm gonna have to make that choice, Bill.
Okay.
Proud of me, I'm proud of us. I'm proud of us. Yeah.
Welcome to another episode of East Texas Unfiltered. I'm your host, J. Chad Parker. Today we have someone who's been in radio most of his professional life. You may not have seen him or know what he looks like, but when you hear his voice, I know you're going to know who I'm talking about. Bill Coates, welcome, and thanks for being on the show.
I've been told I have a radio face. That's not a compliment, I don't think, either.
Well, I think when I researched you, Bill, you made comments before that when your wife first heard you, she thought you were tall and handsome.
Yeah. I told that story here recently. I was fortunate to be inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, and I told that story. We met in 1991, and a close friend and his family introduced us. And so before we met in May of that year, she had listened to me on the radio on WBAP, and she told me later that I sounded like I was tall and handsome. Well, not so much, okay?
But that's okay. I mean, you have a very distinctive, radio voice, and I guess that's probably why you ended up in radio.
That's probably why. I started out in television. I actually was a senior at UT, both Longhorns. You and I both Longhorns.
Right.
And I was this is the late 70s, and Austin was a town. You remember how cool Austin used to be.
Right.
250, 300,000 people. It had a small town feel.
It wasn't crowded.
And so at that time, I'm a senior at UT, trying to get a journalism degree, and I got an internship at a TV station, the NBC affiliate there in Austin, and the sports director there, and me and I became close friends, and at that time the market was big, but not like it is now. And so they had students who would still work part-time that were still in school. And I was probably among the last of the Mohicans. So I took an internship there at the station. The next thing I knew, the guy that was doing the weekend sports, 6 and 10 sports, quit. And so I got thrown into the breach, and I probably was terrible but I did that for a couple of years before I got into radio. So.
Well, I wanted to ask you about your time in Austin. You made mention of it. I saw you were a journalism major.
Yeah, I was.
When you went into journalism as a major, did you go in thinking that you were going to be more of a newspaper reporter or something, or were you always thinking related to sports?
I saw pretty early on, and I love sports, Chad. I mean, I played it when I was a kid, but I was never anybody's star athlete. But there was something about watching games and the men and women who were actually narrating those games. There was something cool about that to me. I just thought that, what a neat way to make a living. They actually get paid to go watch games.
And you heard more radio when you were younger.
But even on television, I'd sit and my parents told this story, and I kind of remember doing this. I grew up a Cowboy fan. Everybody else was. And they were good back in those days, as you well know. And so I would sit at home on Sunday afternoons, turn the TV sound down. I'm just a kid. And I'd kind of try to do the play-by-play a little bit. And my parents, God bless them, they would put up with that stuff. And so I did that off and on, and something about it fascinated me. So I kind of knew, what kid knows at 10 years old what they kind of want to do, but I kind of did. I just thought that was really cool. And I was lucky enough to go off and get a chance to actually do that for a living.
Did you go to Austin specifically for the journalism program?
Absolutely.
Or was it just that you went there and decided to be in it?
I went there. I went to TJC first. I'm a John Tyler grad, 1975. I'm a year younger than Earl in that group at one state. Okay?
All right. Were you there when Earl was playing?
I was there, yeah. Earl and his twin brothers, we lost him here a few months ago, as a matter of fact, this past year in 2025, the twins.
There was a Steve.
Steve and Tim were twins. They both played it for the Longhorns, too. People forget sometimes that his younger brothers were pretty good football players, too.
That's funny because remember Johnny Lamb, Ham, and Jam Jones?
Johnny Lamb, Johnny Ham. All those guys were there at the same time.
And they're all brothers.
And so, no, Ham and Lamb weren't.
They weren't?
Johnny Ham was from Hamlin. That's the sports information director at the time at UT, a legend, Jones Ramsey, who once famously said at that period of time, there's two sports at the University of Texas, football and spring football. Now, that's not the case anymore, but he was famous for coming up with names. So they recruited, this is after Earl, but they recruited Johnny Lamb. Remember Johnny Lamb Jones?
Yes.
And he was from Lampasas, Texas, and Johnny Ham was from Hamlin. So they had these two kids named Johnny Jones, and so they needed to figure out a way to distinguish the two of them. And so Jones Ramsey came up with Johnny Lamb and Johnny Ham, and it stuck, particularly Johnny Lamb.
Right. I mean, I thought that was his name.
Oh, yeah. No, it was Johnny Lamb Jones. But yeah, it was, so Earl's younger brothers were there, and so I graduated from John Tyler in 75. Earl's a year older than I am. And many of the best players on that state championship team are guys in my class. I just had my 50th high school reunion, and we lost Ronnie Lee here in the last year and a half, but Gary Don Johnson is still alive and well and kicking, and he played for a number of years in the NFL, and there were some dudes on that football team. But anyway, from there I went to TJC and was involved there for a couple of years, then went off to Texas, and I went there for journalism to try to be a sportscaster, Chad.
What was the college environment like there in the later 70s when you were there?
Man, it was the disco era. I'm older than you are. Vietnam had ended.
Had just ended.
And man, I grew up in the era when guys were wearing leisure suits and bell bottoms and
platform shoes.
And that, I don't think you're old enough to remember that, are you?
Well, I think, after Saturday Night Fever came out.
Oh, yeah. It was the Saturday Night Fever era. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I remember I had I wanted a white suit for church with platform shoes.
And I'm sure your mom said no, but heck no.
No,
right?
I mean, she bought it.
Did she really?
And I wore it. I mean.
Well, I knew your mom. I know your mom and I know your dad. Two wonderful people, by the way, but I can imagine. I figured I would, and your mom actually said yes to that.
Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty good, but
okay.
What about Austin, though? Austin, it's the disco era. Is the protest
in the beginning of Saturday Night Live? Too.
Yeah, that's right.
There were protests.
I mean, was it?
UT was an active campus. You remember what Guadalupe used to be like, the old days of Austin.
Because I was there in 1986.
Right. Well, could you still let's use 6th Street for an example. Could you still actually drive down 6th Street on Friday night?
You probably could.
You can't anymore.
No, right. But when I got there, I think it was after the 1986 tax law or something, there was a recession that had started. Because, I mean, on Guadalupe, there were empty spaces, commercial spaces, which you'd never find today.
Oh no. Gosh,
on the drag. They call it the drag.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Now, like 6th Street is, and on the east end of 6th Street, it was a little dark down there, man. You could go down there and you didn't know if you were there might be somebody lurking around the corner. Now it's like going to the county fair, and it's closed down. It's a whole different atmosphere. Austin was quaint at that time. People, you see these bumper stickers that say, keep Austin weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider Austin as that weird anymore. It's just a big city to me now. Right. It's still a great town, but Austin was weird in those era. And when you went there, it was still a weird town. There were still hippies.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The hippies had migrated to Austin.
Yes.
They didn't live in Tyler, and they didn't live, really.
There were still people who thought it was the 1960s living in Austin, Texas at that time.
What about the journalism school itself? How did it prepare you for radio, if it did?
College, my attitude about college has always been that I wouldn't take for my college degree because it forced me to go to school and accomplish something that nobody else could help me with. My parents couldn't do that for me.
Right, your homework, the tests.
I had to go and be my own man.
Study
and manage time and do all that stuff. And so I learned things at the University of Texas, but I think a lot of people would say that college is something that gets you prepared and teaches you, maybe helps you grow up. But you'd probably tell me this, to be a lawyer, you don't really become a lawyer until you become a lawyer. And on a day-to-day basis, have to work with people and do the thing. Well, that's the way the broadcasting business is. You can't learn to do play-by-play unless you're doing play-by-play.
And I think that's why they call it the practice of law, is you get an education, but then you have to learn how to put it to practice.
You learn something. I'm sure you learn something every day.
That's right. I mean, from all different lawyers.
Oh, I see that every day in what I do, too. I mean, interviewing people and doing, because sports it's always changing. I mean, you can't script the games.
No, you have to research and be prepared, I would say.
Absolutely. Yeah, you be prepared, but at the same time, you got to be prepared for being something that happens that's totally unexpected. You can't script a game.
Right.
I mean, a high school football game on Friday night in East Texas, you can't script that. I mean, when Jake and Patrick were playing for the Wildcats, you didn't know what you were going to get. You thought you were going to get a lot of points on a given night.
A lot of wide open offense.
But still, you didn't know what was going to come. And that's one of the things I love about doing ball games is because it's, totally unscripted. You can prepare for what you're about to see, but then you have to go, man, I didn't expect that.
It's like picking a jury for a lawyer.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what the panel, the individuals are going to say to me.
Right.
And I have to be prepared to respond based on what they're saying real time. You can't script that.
And no two people are alike, right?
And that's right. Now, you get this job from the journalism school. Is journalism a financially beneficial, major at that time? Are you thinking, hey, I'm going to make some money being a journalist major?
No, I did it because I wanted to do it. The typical way that I tell people all the time that ask me, how do you get into this business? I say, well, there is no clear-cut route for people who are successful on ESPN or in TV. There's no clear-cut route. Like for an attorney, there's kind of a clear-cut
Well, you could go to school. You could get a job with a firm.
Go to law school. You got to do that. You could
kind of work your way. But
there's really no clear-cut path to doing this. I tell people, I said, well, going to college is great. You don't have to do that.
But you have to get a chance.
But you got to get a chance in a lot of cases. And in my case, back in the 70s, I knocked on enough doors that I hit it off with the sports director at the NBC affiliate, and he gave me an internship while I'm still in school.
What did that look like day one before you became the sports director?
I was a gopher. I did what was needed to do. I helped edit. I would do reports for him and different things like that. And but whatever my friend Steve Fallon asked me to do. He was the sports director, and that could mean anything from editing to go get scores, from ball games so he could include it in his 10 o'clock sportscast. But in the meantime, he would let me do.
Did they do their own sports back then?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've done some interviews where Michael Coleman was one of the podcasts we've done, and he went to places where they had outsourced their sports to another company.
Not at that time in Austin.
Okay.
I mean, all three of the stations at that time, we had an NBC, ABC, and CBS affiliate. I was on the NBC affiliate, and we did sportscasts every night of the week that we produced. And, on Saturday nights, during the football season when Texas was playing, I got nearly 7 minutes on the 10 o'clock news, a 30-minute newscast, because that was a big deal in Austin. We're in Austin, Texas.
Right.
It's the Longhorns. So when they were playing a game, that was the biggest story in Austin that day, period.
And this was TV.
This was TV.
And how long was it that you were there as an intern before the sports editor quit and you had to step up and get on camera?
3 or 4 months.
All right.
It happened quick.
And you had never yourself done any public speaking or
no, I'd done some public speaking, but there's nothing that prepares you for being live on a newscast when you're
Bill,
looking
we're
at
about
that
to
camera.
count you in. 1, 2, 3, watch the green light.
Just like we did when we started this podcast. They're sitting there and you're coming out of a commercial break and you're about to go on for the first time. And was I nervous? Heck yeah, I was nervous. Oh yeah. Because think about the times. This was the early days of Saturday Night Live, okay? I'm the sports anchor at about 10:25 on the NBC affiliate in Austin, and they're about to go on to Saturday Night Live. We had a big audience.
You're leading into Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, and we had a big audience. And I knew that, and I'm thinking, oh, my goodness, there are a lot of people, are going to be watching this. So, I had to sober up, not sober up like that, but I had to get focused pretty quick and learn pretty quick not to be terrible on TV.
Well, how long did you do that for Austin where you were on television as the weekend sports anchor?
About a year and a half.
All right.
I got into radio in 1980. A man named Ron Rogers at KVET in Austin came to me and he said, hey, how would you like to do radio? We need a sports director. And here's what we do. On radio.
Okay, and so you had kind of worked your way in TV for a year and a half.
I thought I was pretty good by that 2 years in. I thought I was pretty good.
Developed a routine where you prepared.
Yeah, I think I'd like to think I was a lot better 2 years later.
The way you were going to dress.
Yeah, the way I dressed.
Everything.
And, I was smoother. I mean, as the years went on, I think I got smoother. But there was something about radio, because that went back to my roots. I always wanted to do play-by-play.
How did this person know you or reach out to you for you to get in radio?
I met him one day. We were at a Texas Longhorn football practice or something. His name was Ron Rogers. He just passed away here in the last few days. He was the general manager of KVET Radio.
In Austin.
They were a country station, but they did a lot of news, and they had a big sports presence, and they did a live locker room show after every Texas football and basketball game. And so the chance to do that and to do some play-by-play was more than I could say no to. And so after I took that job, I did daily sportscasts on the radio, and I got to do a live locker room show after every Texas football game that with players and coaches, including Fred Akers. Remember Fred Akers?
Yeah, funny story.
Freddie was the coach then.
Well, I walked on at Texas.
Yeah, I knew that. I think I knew that.
1986.
And Fred was the coach.
His last year.
So,
I mean, I knew Fred Akers, and I watched him coach.
Yeah.
And how things, and it's so strange compared to nowadays. I couldn't believe that the head coach didn't know the offensive plays, which he didn't.
Yeah, he had an offensive coordinator for that, right?
Right, but I mean, he didn't really seem to know much. And coming from high school, which was my only perspective, I thought the head coach
knew everything.
And
because he probably had to.
And it just seemed like back then, the head coach at Texas, whether we went for it on 4th and 1 was about the only decision that got made by the head coach.
Yeah, no, I think at that level, even then, being the head coach at a school the size of Texas, you're a coach, but you're also a CEO,
right?
And you're also a politician.
You're a delegator. You're a politician with the alumni.
Alumni, you bet you are. That's just unique. I think college football is a unique skill set. Mac Brown was the best I've ever seen.
Yeah,
he was a football coach, politician, and delegator, and all that stuff at the same time. He's the best combination I've ever seen of doing all that stuff.
He was good, and you mentioned 6th Street. What I remember, you could just walk up to the stadium when I was there.
Yeah.
And go on the track and jog around the track.
Sometimes while practice was going on.
I mean, it was totally wide open.
Totally wide open.
Compared to the way it is today.
Yeah, and I would go, and Fred I think Fred was a good football coach. People don't give him enough credit.
I didn't see much of him other than that Windows, season of 86.
We went 11-0 twice when Fred was the coach and played the national championship a couple of times.
Some people say he was still playing with Darrell Royal's players.
Well, but after, but he took Earl. Remember Earl, when nobody loved Darrell Royal more than me. I didn't know him well, but I got to know him a little bit. But they were running the wishbone. When Freddie took over, they made Earl a tailback and ran the I out of the I formation. And he became Earl Campbell
in the I. That's right.
And became the number 1 pick in the draft and a future Hall of Famer because he was the guy. And so that was Fred. And that was that offense that they went to. So
no, that was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, well, yeah. but Fred had to make the call.
Right, he had to decide what we're going to change. Right.
And so they played my first year at Texas. I wasn't in the media yet, but remember the Longhorns played in the 1977 National Championship game. We went 11-0 and played Joe Montana and Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl. And I went to that game as a fan. Cold day, and Montana wore us out that day and beat us. And then 5-6 years later, in '83, they had another 11-0 season and got beat the Cotton Bowl by Georgia.
I was there.
Yeah, I went to that game too. Remember, we muffed a punt.
Jitter Fields.
Yeah.
Jitter Fields was the return man who muffed the punt.
Anyway, but they still went 11-0 twice. So Fred was a good coach, and I got to work with him for 3 years after that. No, this was I got to work with him in the 80, 81, and 82 seasons, and I saw some pretty good football.
He went to Wyoming?
No, he was.
Where did he go?
He came from Wyoming. He got fired. He came from Wyoming to Texas.
Where did he go after Texas?
He went to Purdue.
Oh, that's right.
He went to Purdue and finished his career there. But he had 10 years at Texas, which, considering that he followed Royal, that was a pretty good run. It's hard to follow a legend.
It is.
I mean, the guy who followed Bear Bryant was Ray Perkins, and he didn't last very long. I mean, think about. I mean, I like Kalen DeBoer, the Alabama coach, but considering who he's following, that's a tough gig, man.
I mean, that's
following
why
Saban.
That's
that's
why
hard.
the Lane Kiffin move looks good in that respect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Don't follow the legend. Follow the guy who follows the legend. And Fred followed the legend and did well with it.
Or go when the team is down.
As we go when the team is down.
Now, you get over to Dallas in the early 80s on radio. How did that job come about?
Well, they came to me, and I guess I'd been at it long enough that people were starting to know who I was, and I'd met a lot of people.
Is there a group or an association where you guys, that is, radio people, know each other?
Sure. Oh, it's like any other. It's like any other profession, Chad. You get to know guys in your profession, and they like your work, or
in
they
different
don't.
markets.
And so Dallas was a bigger market than Austin, and I got a chance to go to WBAP. Couldn't say no. And I got to go to WBAP. I was the morning sports anchor with a couple of radio guys named Hal J. and Dick Siegel. And I did that for 8.5 years. And also, while I was there, I got to do TCU football and basketball, and I got to do the Mavs for 5 years.
So
I got to do some of that stuff.
I mean, you're kind of learning the sports, right? If you're doing football and basketball.
Oh, yeah.
What I'm curious about is just these radio stations you've worked at. Were you ever called upon to be a disc jockey?
No, I never.
To fill in?
No, I never did that. WBAP, the
country station.
I will dial you back a little bit. The first time I ever keyed a microphone, there's two different places here in Tyler. That when I was in junior college for part-time work, I went with a guy named Jim Buck, who was he was a stockbroker here in town, and he did Robert E. Lee football on the radio. This is in the late 70s when I was at Tyler Junior College.
Kind of like a Roger Nunley type that's just doing it as a second job?
In this case, it was not a job. I was just a volunteer, just a kid who went along and was their spotter, helped them do stuff, carry equipment, and I got to do the halftime show, on those Robert E. Lee football games. And at the same time, I had a part-time job at KNUE. Now a country station has been 101.5, has been a country station for many years.
You got to spin some discs?
But at that time, it played easy listening music. You remember what easy listening is? Henry Mancini records.
Yacht
stuff
rock.
Like that. So I got to 6 o'clock on Saturday to 1 o'clock
Kenny
Sunday
Loggins.
morning. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stuff like that.
Messina and
so,
Loggins.
So I don't say I'm really a disc jockey, but I worked late Saturday evenings, kind of cut into my social life, but I would spin records and do stuff like that.
You got to do a lot of things in the 80s, and then what was it that opened up an opportunity to come back to Tyler?
Well, I left WBAP in 1991, and I'd always thought that I wanted to own a radio station, and I always thought that I loved radio enough that I could get into sales too. So when I left WBAP, I came back here. I was still able to do some on-air stuff. David Smoke was here at the time, and he and I were teammates here for a long time.
Where did you come back to?
KTBB Radio.
Okay, you've been
at 34 years.
Same place.
Same place.
Now
we're News and Talk on 97.5 for KTBB, and then the Team Sports Radio, which is where 92.1 FM, which is called the Team Sports Radio.
That's you and Kevin Simon.
That's our show in the afternoons from 4 to 6. So I'm on both radio stations, but primarily on the Team doing that afternoon radio show. But I came back here because I was able to still do some on-air stuff, but also do sales. And
I guess the sales.
Ad sales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ad sales is just part of the job for somebody, and you just did that.
I mean, you deal with ad people all the time doing what you do. You've done some stuff with us in the past.
Right.
So you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
So I do that stuff. I mean, that's why I still do a lot of that stuff. I'm the sports director for the 2 radio stations, and I do ad sales.
Now, 92.1, is that a station owned by Paul Gleiser?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are owned locally. Paul owns KTBB and the Team Sports Radio, and has for 30 years. I mean, he and I...
Both of them?
Both of them. We pretty much been together. He and I pretty much been together the whole time.
Because 92.1 was not always ESPN affiliate.
Oh, no. We became... We played originally before Paul bought it, it was once upon a time a country station.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, it was called, I think, the Rose maybe, or K-Rose, I believe, a long time ago.
92.1.
Years and years ago, it was K-Rose. But it has been, it was briefly kind of a talk station, And then we started playing oldies, and we were pretty successful with the oldies, but we decided that to really take that station to where we wanted it to be, we needed to go all sports because there's a market for that out there. Sports stations are not exclusively men, but mostly guys listen to sports talk. And so it was an opportunity for us to hit a niche, and so we did. That's been 15 years ago.
All right. The sports talk is you and Kevin Simon.
Right.
Chris, let's pull up that. We've got a picture of Kevin and Bill. Not necessarily. I don't know if you're doing the sports talk in this moment, but he's got the shirt on.
Yeah, we are doing. We're at, I think, Big 12 Media Days, probably at I think that's where we were at AT&T Stadium in Dallas when that picture was taken. That's a preseason football gathering that the conferences all do before football season, done in July every year, where they get together and all the coaches and they bring players together in one location, and you get a chance to hear from all the coaches from the Southeastern Conference, which we go to every year, or the Big 12 or whatever. And I'm sure we were there. And so, I got that stupid grin on my face there because we were posing for a picture that I think Phil Hicks from the Tyler Morning Telegraph took, I think.
But this is your partner.
That's my partner, Kevin Simon.
And has been Sports Talk, which runs every day of the week, or at least
4 to 6, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6.
Now, where do you broadcast that from?
From all kinds of places. Like as we record today, we're going to be at Rose City Draft House tonight. We move around at a lot of different places.
Right. I mean, I can
sponsors different places.
I can remember you being different places.
I interviewed you one day. We were at Texas Music City Grill over on the old Jacksonville Highway. Talked about Mahomes.
That's right.
For a while.
I did. I remember that interview. And so that's been that show for all these years.
For all these years, yes, sir.
Now, what are your job duties, or what do you do for KTBB?
I do, I'm the sports director, so I'll do reports. I do sales, number one, but I also do reports for the morning show. We have a morning show from 6 to 8 every day.
Where they'll read sports?
Where it's news, weather, sports, the whole package from 6 to 8, and then, again, 5 to 6 p.m. So I'll do reports that run, little package stories that'll run in the sports casts and
when
stuff
you
like
say
that.
Run, that's the host reads the story?
Either that or he'll run my little recorded version of it. Sometimes I'll record something and put it on there.
All right.
But Jeff Rourke is our morning anchor, and he does his own sports, but I'll have little features, if you will, that run in those sportscasts.
I mean, do you still broadcast live much of anything, say, today? I mean, other than sports talk?
There's nothing going on today other than sports talk.
But I mean, just let's pick
later
a year.
This week, okay, but later this week, on Wednesday night of the week we're recording this, I'll do a TJC men's basketball game on Wednesday, and Thursday, UT Tyler, they have a women's doubleheader on Thursday night at the Harrington Patriot Center. So we do TJC's football and basketball. We do some UT Tyler basketball. We do the high school football. You know that.
Right.
And
you're out there at Trinity Mother Francis.
Oh yeah,
right.
Gosh, practically every Friday night in the fall, just about every Friday night.
You've seen a lot of good athletes because you've witnessed the games firsthand.
Yeah.
Right. And I've read stuff about you and some of your quotes about what you do. You've got a canvas, you say.
Yeah.
And it's your job to paint a picture.
Well, think about radio. You can't see. There's no video there. So one thing I really love about radio is that you are looking at either your radio or your app, but you don't see the field.
You're just listening.
You're listening. And so our job is, if you're trying to do play-by-play, your job is to paint the picture.
So that people could imagine themselves seeing it there.
Right. So when Mahomes and Jake Parker, your son, were playing, or
you
Zach,
never did the White House game.
I didn't do Brian Houston did those White House games in those days.
That's
did a
right.
great job with it too, by the way. But anyway, my job is to describe that, the Wildcats have it 1st and 10 at the 40-yard line. They're going right to left. And, they've got, Mahomes is in a shotgun. They got a running back, and the Parker boys are one split left.
The coach is trying to get a timeout on the other sideline.
Absolutely. But the ball is snapped. Mahomes is rolling out to the right. These are things you don't see on TV because you can see all that.
Right.
But on radio, you're supposed to describe that. And Patrick is on the run, and he throws a pass, and Jake catches it 15 yards downfield for a first down. I mean, we're supposed to try to paint that picture for you.
You mentioned Mahomes, of course, and obviously I'm familiar with him, and you are too. But I'm sure you've seen a lot of other great athletes in football and basketball in some of the games you've covered. Let's talk about, you've talked a little bit about what was John Tyler, right?
Oh, yeah.
Earl's years, but you mentioned TJC basketball. What kind of athletes have you seen come through there in your time?
Well, I mean, the junior college athletics, people sometimes downgrade JUCO athletics, and that's wrong, because what happens, the junior colleges get Division I talent. For some reason, those kids
grades.
Sometimes it's a bunch of different reasons.
Right, but it can be a great athlete that
sometimes it's grades. Sometimes it might have been a discipline issue that the kid's trying to grow up.
Right.
But there are also cases,
Cam Newton,
where, I was going to get to Cam here in a moment, but there's the junior college, you get others. Some kids you get that play in junior college athletics were overlooked because there are more. They're just not enough. There are not enough jobs. There are more players than there are jobs.
And the measurables have taken over college football.
You'll get kids at the junior college level sometimes who are great athletes and great football players or basketball players, but they didn't get recruited, sometimes because they played on a bad team.
Right.
And didn't get noticed.
Maybe the offense doesn't showcase a receiver.
Or maybe the quarterback is 6'1" instead of 6'4".
Right.
And he didn't get recruited, but he can still play. And you see it every day. Baker Mayfield's not 6'4". He's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Now Patrick fit the measurables, but remember the way Patrick was recruited, he got overlooked because he didn't really become a quarterback full time until his junior year at White House.
That's right.
So Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech was on him from the beginning, but Patrick was considered a 3-star maybe coming out of White House?
Yeah. I mean, a story along those lines is I actually took Patrick to LSU Junior Day.
Yeah. Okay.
As you mentioned.
Yeah.
And they did not know who he was.
Didn't know he was.
That's when you say overlooked, that's exactly.
They know who he is now, though.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine Les Miles now saying, what?
Yeah. But that happens to all coaches.
And Patrick wanted to play baseball, and LSU had one of the best baseball teams.
Yeah.
SMU, he wanted to go to SMU. They didn't have a baseball team.
Didn't have a baseball team, yeah.
But there's other guys. I mean, we've seen guys in basketball like, I remember this dude named Prince Bridges back in the day.
I remember the name. I don't think I saw. Who did he play for?
TJC. And
okay.
I don't know where. And then he went on to Missouri.
They've had great players come through all those schools, and people kind of forget them. Yeah, Jimmy Butler. I remember Jimmy Butler now, and some of those guys. Here's the best. You was asking me in my years of doing football at Rose Stadium. The best players I've ever personally seen out there would include Earl, would include Mahomes, would include Aaron Ross.
Yeah.
Played in the NFL.
He went to Texas.
Went to Texas, won a national championship and 2 Super Bowls.
Right.
Would have included Cam Newton, who played at Blinn Junior College.
That's right.
I'd never seen anything like him. He was kind of
6'4", fast. He could throw it.
Oh, he was a man among boys, and that's hard to say in that league. And a kid named Reggie McNeil, who played at Lufkin High School. Huh. I don't know if you remember Reggie.
I don't.
Reggie played for the Aggies after he left Lufkin. He won a state championship in 2001 for Lufkin, and he was born 10 years too early. Probably a little bit like Manziel.
Right.
But Reggie McNeil was born a decade too early because he was a dual threat guy in an era when coaches wanted their quarterbacks to drop back and throw it. Reggie McNeil today, he'd be the number 1 pick in the draft. Remember, he went to Texas A&M, and he had some great games down there, but they were trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. And R.C. Slocum's the coach. And Mahomes, and Reggie was really not that drop back guy. He was the dual threat guy that now coaches drool over today.
Yeah, I mean, that's the prototype is no longer Peyton Manning.
Not really. I mean, you get those guys, you love those guys, but the prototype now is that kid who can move around out there.
Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and Patrick kind of has sort of been one of the forerunners for that.
He's a deceptive runner.
Yeah, he is a deceptive runner, but what I've always thought about Patrick was I think Patrick's baseball background has made him as one of the reasons he's such a great quarterback. He sees the field.
Basketball as well.
Right. And if you're a baseball player, if you're a shortstop, which is I understand the position you really love to play the most. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I mean,
or outfield.
Well, I mean, if he was a little wild, he always could throw hard.
Oh gosh.
But he likely, if he'd went to the major leagues, the plan was for him to play right field.
Yeah.
Because from the throw from right
that,
field
with that arm
for third base.
But a baseball player has to be able to see the whole big picture.
I see a bunch of basketball moves in him.
Absolutely.
On the football field.
Well, that and that sidearm throw that everybody drills over, that's nothing but a shortstop making the throw.
And the no-look pass.
Yeah, the no-look pass. That's baseball stuff.
Basketball.
That's basketball.
That's basketball.
Too,
yeah, I mean, I'm saying he's incorporated all three of those things.
I think his real gift is that he is able to, is his mind. And now God gave him a lightning bolt for a right arm. God bless him. But he also, I think what he has up here.
Smarter than most people realize.
Is way smarter than most people even have any idea how smart that kid is.
Now, you've also said that in your career, nobody's had more fun than you.
Yeah.
Right?
I've had a lot of fun. I've never claimed to be the best, but I've had a lot of fun doing it.
But I mean, people talk all the time. It's not work if it's fun.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't feel like work, does it?
Now, there have been days I've worked hard, but I've never felt like I worked a day in my life.
Paul
Does
Gleiser,
that make sense?
Yeah, Paul Gleiser's on you. Hey, Bill, can't we get some ad revenues?
Oh, yeah. No. There's always stress. But as far as people, I've never looked at the clock at 3:00 in the afternoon and say, oh, man, do I have to stay here another 2 hours before I get to go home? I've never done that, Chad, because there's always been something coming up that I've had a chance. I got a show to do at 4:00. So I've never had that. I'm thankful that I've never looked at the clock at 3:00 in the afternoon and said, dadgummit, I got to stay 2 more hours. I never have done that.
Right. But that is a commitment, though, because if you have a show every weekday from 4 to 6, there has to be some preparation and setup.
Prep, yeah.
Right? I mean, you just can't go over there and just start talking.
I'll leave here and go to my next location. We'll start prepping for the show this afternoon. Yeah, try to prep for the show.
But you've also got, gone to some interesting places like Super Bowls, I presume.
Yeah.
I think we've got a photo of you and Earl.
Oh, yeah.
And Emmett and Tony Dorsett, and then your sidekick over there, Kevin Simon.
Well, that was Arizona. I think it was Super Bowl 57, I think. Anyway, so the way that went down, we knew we were going to get Earl and Tony Dorsett. They were in a documentary that was being made. There's been only a handful of players in NFL history that won the Heisman and made it to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's a short list. Roger Staubach is one of them, but there's a short list of those guys. Charles Woodson is one of those guys. There's about maybe 10 of them. Okay, in the history of football that have done both. And you're looking at 2 of them right there. And Emmett, we knew Emmett was coming on because he was there promoting Herradura tequila. Okay.
Yeah. Well, he's got a bottle of Herradura Añejo under his arm.
So Emmett shows up first. We knew we were about to get Emmett at about 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday. We knew Emmett was going to be there. We knew we were getting Earl and Tony. We just didn't know when. So I'm sitting there like we're doing right now. We're interviewing Emmett, talking football, talking about the Cowboys. And the next thing I know, out of the corner of my eye here, I could see that wheelchair coming up, and here comes Earl. So Earl and Tony sit down, and for 10 minutes, even Emmett was a little bit, it's the dirtiest thing I've ever been a part of, and I've had a chance to interview a lot of people, but I looked at Kevin, I'm going, I'm not believing we've got this panel. Think about the running backs. Think about those 3 dudes.
Right.
You got 3 Hall of Famers. Even Emmett was a little taken aback. He looked at me and he said, man, there's a lot of yardage represented here.
I mean, right.
Think about that.
Emmett's the overall leader.
Emmett's the leader. Dorsett's got 11,000 or something, and Earl, for 8 years, was the best player in the NFL. I mean, period,
Earl's kind of secluded now a little bit, isn't he?
His health is not, his mind is great, but he doesn't get around very well. So I don't know if secluded's the right word. Earl gets out, but he rides that scooter mostly.
But he's more, I've heard he
lives in Austin.
He's a little more shy about interviews, things like that.
It's kind of hard to get to Earl sometimes, but it's interesting when he comes into a room that people still stop and look.
Oh, for sure.
They know who he is.
I've talked to him. He shows up at the Juneteenth Association parade in Tyler every year. He's a part of the truckers group. And so I've seen him probably 2 or 3 times just, sitting out there, and he's very accessible.
And I've been in a room with him, and when he wheeled in, people go, wow, I mean, I've seen people go, dang, that's Earl Campbell.
Well,
that's pretty cool.
I mean,
but that was a fun morning. That was about 15 minutes of just really cool and a once in a lifetime deal to get those 3 dudes together.
I mean, you're somebody from Tyler when your nickname is the Rose,
Yeah.
right? The Tyler Rose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what
And
the
they got a
city's
street named after you.
the city,
Yeah.
right? Earl Campbell Parkway,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I'm
And an award named after
I'm in
him now.
negotiations with the city about Chad Parker
You want
Boulevard.
Don't Get Hurt Twice Boulevard. Is that what you?
I mean, well, I'm trying to figure out which one that we're gonna have.
I think I'd go with DGH too. I don't know. What do you think? What do you if there's a Chad Parker Street? What do you want? Chad Parker or DGH two?
I don't know if there's gonna. I don't think I'm gonna have to make that choice, Bill.
Okay, that's a good choice though. That'd be fun. But anyway, that was a fun. That was as we take that right at the end of the interview. Kevin and I are both still going, dang, did that just happen? Seriously.
So what other players, that are, meaningful to you, interesting, surprised that you got to talk to? Have you got to talk to?
Well, a bunch of at those Super Bowl radio rows. I mean, I've talked to everybody from Joe Montana to Joe Namath, and from Archie Manning to Olivia Manning, their mom, to all kinds of Hall of Fame guys that were really cool. Roger, I mean, and heck, I don't know, from everybody from Rocky Blyer, if that name means anything to you, Vietnam veteran, played for the Steelers.
Right.
I've interviewed Bradshaw, I've interviewed Aikman. I mean, all those guys, a lot of people. But I will tell you the last time I was nervous about an interview was about 4 years ago. Gleiser and I flew to Montana, and I interviewed former astronaut Frank Borman. We interviewed former astronaut Frank Borman. Does that name ring a bell?
I mean, just generally, obviously he survived his tenure as an astronaut.
Apollo 8. You were just a pup.
I was born in 1967.
So you don't remember this, but in 1968. And this is the last time that hair stood up on my meeting one of those guys been to the moon. I mean, that is a short list of men who've been to the moon.
Why are you and Paul going out to interview him in the first place?
Because we're both space freaks, and Paul was doing a feature on the Apollo program, the 50th anniversary of the moon landing, and we were just doing this. Had nothing to do with sports. This was he was going to do this interview, and he said, "Coatsy, why don't you go with me? Because I know how you are." And so I basically just went with him, Chad, just because it was fun to do. I just wanted to go and meet Frank Borman.
I'm assuming that you guys believe that we actually landed on the moon.
Yes, I believe we landed on the moon, Chad.
There's that internet debate out there, and so. But specifically, if I had my hands on a guy to talk to, that he had been to the moon, right?
Yeah. Well, what happened?
Or did he just circle the moon?
So in 1968, the reason we went to the moon in the first place was because of the Cold War. The Russians launched Sputnik,
right,
and that started all of that.
Right.
We had to beat them to the moon.
I was a history major.
So in 1968. Bad year in American history. You think times are bad now? 1968, Bobby Kennedy gets shot. Martin Luther King's assassinated. George Wallace was shot.
Malcolm X.
All that stuff was going. I'm sure that was 68 or not. I don't think that was.
It was close.
Close in there.
It was
turbulent times.
It was.
But we're also in 1968. We're in a full blown war with the Cold War, trying to beat the Russians to the moon. So in 1968, apparently, one of our spy satellites saw the Russians had built a rocket big enough to go to the moon. And so we were afraid they would take a shot, even though they weren't ready. We were afraid they were going to try the Hail Mary and just send a couple of guys there just to say they could. And
stake a claim to the moon?
So they accelerated. Apollo 8 was originally not planned to do that, but they decided on Christmas of 1968 they would launch Apollo 8 without the lunar module, which is the landing vehicle.
Right.
They were just going to send that darn thing to the moon and do 10 laps. They sent it without the lunar module and basically untested. A lot of the stuff that they did on that flight had never been done before. So those three men were seriously putting their lives on the line for their country. Borman was the commander of the mission. So they were the first human beings ever to leave Earth's orbit, to fly outside of our gravitational pull,
right.
And they went to the moon. They did 10 laps, did not land. But if you've ever Googled it or YouTubed it, on the Christmas Eve night, 1968, they read from Genesis.
Is that right?
And it'll still to this day, it kind of gets you. If you listen to it, and that was Frank Borman. And to meet him, I'm telling you, man, it's still, to this day, it still does something to him.
Did Gleiser ask him if he saw any UFOs or anything like that?
I don't think he did. No, I don't think so.
I don't know what Paul's bent is on that. There's so much of that in the news recently.
I know.
Right? There's a lot coming out, about what's going on. And there's several of
about UFOs?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's several astronauts that have talked about that
Yeah.
publicly. And so
I don't think we asked him about that. I don't, what was the movie? There was a movie made several years ago that Jodie Foster said, a movie Contact.
Matthew McConaughey was
Yeah,
in that.
Right. And so her famous quote in that movie was, if there's nobody else out there, it seems like an awful waste of space. So is there life on other planets? I tend to think yes.
There's no way I would not have asked Frank Borman that question if I had access to it.
I don't remember whether Paul did or not. I can't remember. We spent about an hour with Frank, and we did a long interview. I don't know whether he was a believer in extraterrestrial life or not.
Well, just curiosity.
Most of those guys seemed to think that there had to be something out there. I think a lot of them felt that way because they had been out there far enough. They go, man, this is, I mean, we're just in a speck. I mean, there's all this, an infinite universe out there. How could there not be somebody else out there?
Well, let's talk about, some of the awards. And I just want to ask you about them. And then you tell me, kind of in a short form what they are.
Okay.
So we can get a good understanding of the things that you've accomplished and the awards that you've, because that says something about a career that's been almost 40 years?
40 years. Well, I've been doing this since 1978. So whatever the math is on that, 22 plus 26 is nearly 50 now.
You're a 6-time winner, AP, Associated Press. Now, I don't know for what, is that Best Sportscaster? What is that?
I think it was a Best Sportscast Award, which is one of those 3 or 4 minute morning updates that we would do. So I've done that, and that's kind of cool to do. So yes, that's what that's about.
And AP though, is that
Associated Press?
That's national.
Yeah, and then now the AP quit doing that, so now the Texas Association of Broadcasters do it in the state of Texas now, and I've had an opportunity to win a couple of those too.
Well, the Dallas Press Club gave you the Katie Award in '88. I don't know what that is.
It's the Dallas Press Club's Oscars, I guess, if you want to call it that, for the DFW media in that area. And I was working at WBAP at the time, and it was one of those morning sports updates that I did on the Hal and Dick show. Got a cool little thing in my office. It kind of looks like it's Katie. It's a lady, kind of looks a little bit like the Oscar, only a female form. Yeah, only a female version of Oscar, I guess. How about that?
Ultimately, you made reference to this earlier. You were inducted into the Texas Radio Hall of Fame.
Back in November. Yes, sir.
In your business, how does one get, put up for that award? Is that just everybody eventually who's in radio, or is this a real honor?
Well, I'd like to think it's a real honor. You had to be nominated, and then they have a panel that votes, and so there were 20 of us in this particular class, and so I got voted in. So I'd like to think it's a big deal, but I had to be nominated. I can't nominate myself, so I had to be nominated, and some people had to vote for me. So.
Had you ever been nominated before?
Year before last, I was nominated.
Just kind of like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, you don't always get in?
No, I don't guess. I learned I was nominated the year before and didn't get in. I didn't think much about it. I'm going, wow, I'm honored to be nominated. And then this past year I got in. So, wow, okay.
Were you working at KTBB when Paul Gleiser bought the radio station?
Yes.
Okay, so you came with the station.
Right. I kind of did. He and I got to East Texas about the same time. I had moved, I'm from Tyler, but I had moved back to Tyler in 91, and he bought, at that time, KDOK Radio.
I remember that. It was AM, wasn't it?
AM, yeah. He bought that station.
Was that out on the East Loop?
I think it was at that time. That kind of that East Loop, that played that. It's grown up around that area.
Little building with a huge antenna.
Right. We still have part of our antenna there. I think we still own part of that property, but not the building. And I don't think we own. I don't think we own the building, but the building's been condemned, and we don't own that. But the tower, we still use that tower out there and rent that. Or have maybe I'm not sure whether Paul owns that little piece of property or not, but yeah, he owned KDOK, and he kind of, when KTBB, the man who owned KTBB and KTYL at the time, he had some financial issues and went into bankruptcy. Paul bought KTBB AM 600 out of bankruptcy, and we got lucky because at about that same time, along comes a guy named Rush Limbaugh.
Right.
Who changed talk radio.
And he did it. He had a show forever.
Right. And he proved that talk radio was viable instead of playing records. Okay.
Exclusively playing records.
Radio had always been, leading up to that, had always been about playing music.
With a few news breaks spread in there.
And so nobody had ever done talk radio in the daytime instead of playing records, okay?
Did he do it on 600 AM?
He originally was on another station in town, but we got Rush. But anyway, we saw pretty early on that we thought the talk format was going to amount to something. So we started doing talk radio and then later added Rush Limbaugh, and that solidified what we were trying to do.
How do you get a show like that as a broadcaster?
Well, in that particular case, Paul bought the stations that he was on at the time and got the show? And got the show and the radio stations. He literally bought the two radio stations in order to get Rush Limbaugh so we could build all of our midday programming around the Babe Ruth of the genre, because that's what he is.
Right.
He was the original guy that proved that instead of playing records on the radio, like we're doing right now, that you could actually talk and people would pay attention and listen to people talking on the radio about everything from sports to politics.
Because that was a long show.
Yes, 3 hours every day.
And it was, conservative bent.
Still, yeah. And so from there, Rush passed away. We lost him 2-3 years ago. He had lung cancer, but out of that has come all of the other men and women who do it now.
That's right. I just wonder about the economics and how this all works. Does a radio station have to pay for the content, like the show, to be on there?
Radio programs are paid for in two different ways. You can either pay money or you can pay with inventory. You can give the syndicator part of your inventory,
advertising
where they
revenues,
can go sell that themselves, and so they get to sell part of your inventory themselves. And so in most cases, that's the way it's done. You don't necessarily write them a check. You give them X amount of spots per week that they go and they've got their own sales force if they're a national company.
And they run anything they want in those spots?
In those spots. And we run that, and that's how we pay for some of that programming. And it works. It's a very good model. We have plenty of leftover inventory we can sell ourselves, but that's a lot of the way that kind of thing done. It's kind of a barter system in that they make their money by their own sales force going out and selling the inventory to national advertisers.
Because it'd be hard for all radio stations, even smaller ones, to pay to have a show like that.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, that's
right. No. Now, we paid for Rush. I think there was money changed hands there, but a lot of the shows are done on a barter basis in that we give them inventory and they sell it, and they make their money that way, and it works. It's a very workable format.
Somebody looking to get into the business like you've done, as we talked about earlier, and they're listening to us, they're probably wondering, how would I get paid? What would be my sources of income? Would I have to be on the radio? Would I be in ad sales? Would I do all of it?
Well,
what would I do?
I've done all of it. So, and that's been my model all these years. But most radio stations have an on-air staff, people who just do that.
Right.
And then they have salespeople who just do that. We've been able, in a market this size, we're a medium market. We're not Dallas-Fort Worth. That doesn't go on in the big markets much, I don't think. But in a market of our size, there's room for me to go out and visit with clients. Multitask, which I do.
Right.
Try to do.
But I mean, are you able to make money for yourself, as a salesperson?
Sure. Yes, absolutely.
When you secure ad sales?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, wouldn't be doing it if I couldn't. No, that's part of the deal. I mean, I tell people all the time that I've always loved radio, and I love talk radio because our audience is engaged. If you're listening to our radio stations, you're engaged.
You're paying attention.
You're paying attention. We cannot be background music like some, music stations. God bless them.
Easy listening.
But you might not be paying that much attention. The song is on, but you're not really engaged. If you're listening to talk radio, if you're listening to KTBB and a conservative talk show host is on, you either agreeing or disagreeing with him, right? Or her.
Or you're listening.
But you're listening,
right.
Okay? And the same thing we hope with sports. If you're listening to a sportscast or the sports talk in the afternoon or a Rangers game on a Tuesday night during the baseball season, you're listening. You're paying attention.
Now, the listeners you mentioned.
Yeah.
How does radio keep track of, somewhat similar to Nielsen ratings, or how do you sell yourself that you've got anybody listening?
Well, not everybody subscribes to the ratings, but we do. We are part of it's called Nielsen Audio now, and they basically take twice a year in this market. I think the way they're still doing it, they take a statistical sample over about a 3-month period of time in the spring and the fall, and they will send out. Basically recruit people to try to keep a diary.
Like the old days of Nielsen.
Right.
Where people actually had a diary at home.
Yeah. So they might keep a diary, and they would, as best they can, try to recreate what they've been listening to. And so it's a statistical sample for the Tyler Longview area of, say, 1,000 people. And it's like any poll, like a political poll or any other poll that you do. You're trying to take a statistical sample and project the whole market over a stat sample. And it's not perfect, but it's the best we've got.
Right. It's hard to sample that.
It's hard. Political samples are not always correct. They're pretty good, but so that's the best we've got. It's pretty good because those people that do those, that run that company, are very sticklers about what they will actually count. For instance, as somebody who works in the radio business, it is illegal for me to I've had them mail me a diary and say, would you like to keep a diary? And I have to say, no, I can't, because I work at one of those radio stations.
You have a conflict.
A big conflict.
Right.
Now, you don't think any of us that work in the business would love to keep a diary and put our own station down? Can't do that.
Right.
You're not supposed to be doing that. But so they're trying to do the best they can to take a legitimate statistical sample of the market to give people an idea, who's listening to what and how often.
Radio's complicated, it would seem, because, unlike a car, there's a radio in a car, right? You're not watching TV driving down the road.
We still own the car dashboard.
So,
you need to not be surfing the internet when you're driving. So we still own that car
So they're
dashboard.
sporadic listeners, I guess.
Sure.
I mean, in some way, shape, or form, which is hard to measure.
Well, there are a lot of things that the audience, the ratings measure. One of those things that they measure is called time spent listening, which means that,
like in TV, how long viewing?
How long, if you're, when you go home this afternoon, Chad, I mean, whatever you're listening to, how long do you listen to it? What's your drive home? How long might you listen to a radio station in the course of a day? I mean,
my attention span is too short.
I understand that, but so people don't necessarily listen. Then, like for a football game, you're probably not going to sit and listen to a game for 3 straight hours.
No.
But you're going to listen for
I don't
a
even
while.
watch 3 straight hours.
Right. And so you're listening for a while, then you got to do something. You'll check back in. You'll go check back in. That's why we give the scores often as we do to keep people. But talk stations generally are very high in time spent listening. People that are listening to talk radio generally stay on that radio. It's the only station, perhaps the only station they have tuned into, because when they are on the radio, when they do get in the car and they do have time to listen to the radio, they're listening to that station. And talk stations index higher than any other stations in that area.
What about consolidation in the radio industry over the last 30 years?
Well, it's changed everything. Some of these big companies have struggled. It's hard enough to run 2 radio stations, much less own 1,000 of them.
Right. That seems like, in my adult lifetime, you've heard things like Clear Channel.
Oh, yeah.
You've heard these
Odyssey and
big
all
companies
these guys,
gobbling up all these radio stations.
And then putting common programming on all of those, which defeats the whole purpose of what local radio is supposed to be all about.
Right.
I grew up in an era when we had local disc jockeys who looked out the window and they could say, it's raining today in Longview.
Right.
You could really, you knew they were looking out the window and doing that. They spun records and you could call them and talk to them. And we try to do that at the KTBB and the team. We try to have local programming as much as possible. It's not all. We have syndicated programming too, but we have our show in the afternoon. We have a morning show and an afternoon show on KTBB. We do local news every hour. Every half hour, we have updates. We try to have as much local as we can absolutely put on, because that's the heart of radio. And if you've got 1,000 radio stations you're trying to manage and you pay too much for them and you're having a hard time making your loan note, it's real hard to have good people doing what they need to be doing.
Well, give us an example of a syndicated responsibility that, KTBB or 92.1 might have. Like, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, we run, let's use 92.1 FM, the team, every day. We run a morning show that we're affiliated with Fox, okay, Fox Sports now.
Right.
We get a morning show, and then we get the Dan Patrick Show every day from 8 to 11.
When you say you get it, does that mean you have to pay for it?
We pay for it with Barter.
Okay, you barter. You give them spots.
Give them, right.
For national plugs.
So from 8 to 11, we have Dan Patrick, who is on, and then from 11 to 2, I got him Colin Cowherd.
Yeah, he's gotten big.
He's on, absolutely. He's on TV too. And then from 2 to 5, Doug Gottlieb is on. Right. And so from 2 to 4, we hear Gottlieb. His last hour, we're on. So
Gottlieb's kind of a basketball guy.
He's about to leave that deal and is going to focus on his basketball job for now. He's the head coach at Wisconsin Green Bay. But so those are syndicated shows, and then after we go off the air at night at 6, then we'll have some play-by-play, or we have syndicated shows from CBS Radio that comes on at night from 6 to midnight, depending on what's going on that night.
In your career, like in my growing up, there was no cell phones.
No.
Okay. There was no such thing as a streaming service.
Nope.
And so at least those two things have come into the marketplace while you've been a radio man.
Yeah.
How have those things changed the way that radio has to operate?
I'm not sure the TV version of it's changed us much. We used to, of course, XM and Sirius merged a few years ago. Now, that would be considered competition, but it's never really impacted us. People who listen, that want local stuff, listen to us, but they might also listen to Sirius XM radio if they want to listen to something else. So we've not been impacted that much by that. Now, TV local affiliates have been greatly impacted by some of this stuff, because if you watch one of these shows, I saw CBS, they're debuting a new show called Marshals. It's a spinoff of Yellowstone. Did you watch Yellowstone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they got the Casey, who was John Dutton's son.
Right, he's in it.
Is a marshal now. He's on CBS, and they're advertising the heck out of that, but they're also saying you can also stream it on Paramount Plus, which to me, they're cheating their affiliates, in my opinion, because they're saying you don't have to watch it live. You don't have to worry about watching your local affiliate, because heck, you can go get it on Paramount Plus. You don't have to watch TV. It's available for you there.
And
we don't have to deal with that.
Depending on how CBS acquired the rights to show Marshals, they may be hurting in ad sales if everybody's watching it on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, well, they're just looking to, it's another revenue stream for them. But I think they're doing their affiliates, their local affiliates.
That's what I'm saying. The local affiliates won't be able to sell advertising.
Well,
it'll be more difficult if someone could just go to Paramount Plus and watch it.
I don't know their business and how they're doing, but I know that
that could
to
be
me, what they're saying to the people out there are, you don't have to actually watch this station. You can watch Marshals anytime you want to on Paramount Plus. And I think that's a disservice. We haven't had to deal with that.
All right, so you're insulated. There's
in that way we are.
One of the changes that radio's been insulated from is what you just.
But we've been impacted by stuff just like anybody else. The internet, social media impacts us in a big way.
Mark Cuban's business. Wasn't it a sports?
His original business was
internet broadcasting of games.
Yeah, internet broadcasting of games, because he lived in Dallas and wanted to hear Indiana basketball. He thought, well, heck, if I want to hear it, there's bound to be a lot of other people out there that want to hear their team's games. And so, that he kind of invented an industry with a laptop computer, basically.
Mark Cuban's probably pretty excited about Fernando Mendoza and Indiana in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think he's an Indiana grad. I'm sure he is.
I wonder if he's an NIL contributor.
I don't know. I don't know if anybody's asked him about that.
Because he's got the kind of money.
He got the kind of money to do it.
To make a team or help a team go from 2 years ago to where they are today. Right?
Well, this is the biggest change. I'd speak to a lot of Rotary clubs and stuff like that, because they like to talk sports. And, when I first started, we covered games. We didn't cover too much of the off-the-field stuff. Well, now there's a lot of off-the-field stuff, but think about how the world has changed now. The 4 teams that are in the college football semifinals, 3 of them have never won a national championship, and none of the 4 are the so-called blue bloods. Miami has won one before, and they're a well-known program, but they're not. But think about it. Oregon, Indiana, and we're looking at Oregon, Indiana, and
Ole Miss.
Ole Miss. None of those 3 have ever won a national championship in football before.
Yeah,
and they all beat blue bloods to get there.
I mean,
Ole Miss beat Alabama. Of course, Oregon, had to get through Texas Tech, but Oregon beat, but Ohio State lost to Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon, no, who beat Ohio State the other night? Miami. Miami beat Ohio State.
It goes so
Alabama
fast that I forget who played who.
Alabama lost to Indiana, and Ole Miss beat Georgia. Those are all blue blood programs, and they all got beat. That's all because of the NIL, the transfer portal.
Right. I mean, it's free agency now.
It's free agency, total free agency.
I mean, it's great for the fans.
Great, I guess. But I'm not sure.
You can buy a team now.
I'll be curious to see what the TV ratings look like that, because I would submit to you that most people, that the average college football fan out there, even though they won't admit it, they like seeing Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Notre Dame,
Michigan,
Ohio State, all those big blue blood programs. Will they watch Oregon, Ole Miss, Miami, and Indiana?
Well, it's funny that the West Coast, UCLA and USC, really have no participation in much of this.
Oh, not yet. I mean,
right?
USC didn't make the playoffs, nor has UCLA. Now, Oregon is the big power on the West Coast right now because they've got Phil Knight. Think about that.
Everybody's got to have a whale.
Everybody's got to have a whale.
Texas Tech's got a whale.
They've got a couple of whales. Oregon's got Phil Knight. I don't know who Indiana's big backers are, but Cuban might be one of them. I don't know. But if you've got a good coach and some NIL money, you can go play college football now.
Well, this is change is what we're talking about in industry, in football, in TV, in radio. What do you think, Bill, the future of radio is with the technology advances and the way people live going forward?
Well, we hope that the future is good because we think we have a unique product. We have talk radio. But again, our biggest competitor now is not TV. It's not XM. It's probably social media. There are a lot of other ways to consume news now, okay?
Right.
And, the problem with social media is there is no buffer and there is no accountability. We have a license given to us by the Federal Communications Commission, okay?
Right, you can't say certain things.
I can't go on the air this afternoon and drop certain words, okay, without getting in big trouble. But no, there is no, on social media, there's no accountability. You can say whatever you want to say and report whatever you want to report. Now, it hurts your credibility, but there's no punishment for that.
What about content? Like, could you and I go on KTBB and talk about anything we wanted to, so long as we didn't use profanity? Or does the FCC have some, monitoring system
we have to prove every year that we serve the public interest.
Could I
go on this afternoon and say that just out of the blue, say, boy, the Russians have, the Russians have gone all out into Ukraine now. I mean, Putin has called off the dogs and he's gone crazy and they're, World War III has started. We can't do that.
But what's different about that than, opinion news versus real news?
Credibility.
Right. I mean, like now there's so much editorializing. If I
want any credibility, I've got to say it can be an opinion. I can give my opinion, but I can't just go on the air this afternoon for shock value and say the Cowboys fired Brian Schottenheimer today.
I don't mean shock value. I mean, a controversial issue where, people are disagreeing on what it means, what it is, because Gleiser himself puts a lot of content out himself. Does he not?
But he makes it very clear that that's an opinion, and the title of that segment is "You Tell Me." He's inviting your opinion back. He makes it very clear that that's an opinion. He doesn't claim it to be fact, and so that's what we do in the afternoon on Sports Talk. We issue opinions. I think the Cowboys are a poorly run football team. Okay, and I can say
sorry,
that.
Bill, that's defamation.
Yeah, but I can't. I can't sit there and say that. Go and say that Jerry Jones is not a good general manager because he's some kind of alcoholic.
Right.
I can't say that.
Right, but what you're saying is, even with an FCC license, you can go on and provide opinion content for the radio.
But I can't yell fire in a theater.
Right. Well, yeah, it's the same First Amendment issues.
There's got to be some, but there's got to be accountability. And if we go overboard, it's theoretically possible for us to lose our license.
What about political advertising?
There is no license on social media. There is no license so anybody can get on and say anything. There's no accountability and there's no measurement. We're measured. We talked about it earlier. We have a rating service that kind of measures who's actually listening to us. You now on social media, they all brag about all these hits and all this other stuff. Well, you don't know how that stuff is coming, all these millions of views and whether this stuff's legit or not. You think it is?
Well, I mean,
don't know.
Everything in TV and radio and social media is meant to be the basis for an advertising charge.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, that's the whole game, right? I mean,
but we actually have a company that is licensed. The FCC has, the Nielsen Audio that rates, the folks who rate TV and radio stations, they have a formula. They go about it in a statistical way. Is it perfect? No. But they have a formula that goes out there, and there's some credibility from years and years of doing it attached. There is no credibility on some of this social media stuff out there.
Right.
It's just whatever they say it is.
My question is really more about, can a politician, a political ad, be purchased and put on KTBB,
Sure.
or is there some FCC prohibition?
Yes, on all of that. Now, I'm not an expert on political advertising, but we are KTBB radio, and we get tons of political advertising at the time of the year.
Right, like
East Texas is predominantly a Republican area, so most of the money comes in during the primaries, because so far in East Texas, generally speaking, the primary is where the elections are won. We get a ton of that political money. There are strict rules about it. The politicians, they advertise. We have to take their advertising as long as they're a legitimate candidate. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't know all the rules.
I was just curious whether you guys could take that.
If they're a legitimate candidate, we have to take it. Not only can we have to take that advertising.
Do you have to put something like a disclaimer?
No, it's just you listen to the ads. They do that on their own commercials. Paid for by the elect Chad Parker mayor campaign. That time, whatever.
I mean, I'm working towards that.
Are you working towards that? But
I'm trying to figure out the rules with you right now so I can launch a campaign.
Well, there's very definite rules to what politicians can do to advertise, and we take their advertising because it's part of what's considered us serving the public. We take their ads, and they're competing candidates. We don't get to pick.
No, yeah,
we don't get to pick.
I know that.
As long as they're a legitimate candidate and the ads are done tastefully, okay, where they're done, they can't use profanity and things like that. But as long as they're legitimate political advertising, we not only do, but we kind of have to.
Paul.
And we're happy to do that because that's part of what we do. People who, by the way, vote, listen to KTBB.
Right.
The nature of the format.
Right.
And they know that.
Conservative audience and the right demographic.
Yeah.
Now, Paul once said when he bought the radio station, one of the things he got in the deal was a bargain, and that was Bill Coates.
I thank him for saying that.
And he goes on to say, Bill is an he is a
old school guy, right?
He's a pro sportscaster. He's a pro talk show host and ad executive as well. So, I mean, it sounds like he recognizes your contribution through the years, and I would assume y'all become somewhat friends.
Oh, we're close friends. He's my boss, and there's certain things lines I won't cross, but he is a friend. He's a close friend.
Well,
and a pretty darn good radio guy too.
Yeah, I mean, Paul,
he loves radio, and he loves East Texas.
Paul has a radio voice himself.
Yeah. Oh, he's
right. I mean, this is Paul Gleiser, and we're going to talk about the Clinton Global Initiative, or
he was a disc jockey when he was a teenager. It was Highland Park High School. He was a disc jockey on KLIF in Dallas. That's what he's always loved doing.
Yeah.
And so he genuinely loves radio.
Well, you've been a good advocate on the show for people thinking about getting into radio, giving them reasons why it's still relevant.
Still fun.
Hopefully it still will be relevant in the future. luckily you're at the end of your career.
Well, I hope not too close. I don't know what else I had. Chad, I have no hobbies. You have hobbies, don't you?
Not really.
I don't have any hobbies.
Not really.
I keep doing this because I like it, and I don't have. My wife would get tired of me at home in about a week. She'd
It's
probably be
good
ready
to
me to
keep
go
using
home.
your brain.
Yeah, I don't have any intention of retiring, but yeah, I'm 69 years old, just turned 69. I still enjoy it. I have fun with it every day, and I think most of the people who do this at the other radio stations, I don't know as many of them as I used to, but I think those folks would all tell you they've had a heck of a good time doing this. It's kind of a bunch of type A personalities locked in a room together trying to make radio. You can see the same thing in what you do. I mean, a lot of you guys that actually go into courtrooms and battle, you got to be a type A personality. The Chad Parker I know, you're a type A personality, right?
And that's a good way to end the show, Bill. Two extroverts, two people who like to talk, and my voice may not be as distinctive as yours, but I'm trying to get there.
You're pretty good. You do okay. You do fine.
Anyway, Bill, thank you for being here.
Man,
We really
I
appreciate it.
appreciate you having me. Thank you very much. This is a cool studio. Way to go, man. This is awesome. I love this.